The first light of dawn slipped gently through the cracks of thatched rooftops and kissed the quiet village of Oru awake. Birds chirped noisily on guava trees, and the call of distant roosters echoed across red earth footpaths. The village was stirring slowly, lazily, like a child reluctant to rise from sleep. Ola was already up, her bare feet pattering against the cold cement floor, as she stepped out of her mother's compound with a half-filled metal bucket balanced on her head. Her skin glowed bronze under the soft light. She was a striking young woman, not just because of her beauty, but because of her composure. She moved like someone who had learned early that strength was quiet, and dignity wasn't tied to riches. The path to the village stream was familiar. She'd walked it every morning since she was 14. Today, she passed old Mama Neka peeling cassava by her doorstep, who nodded and muttered a tired good morning. Children raced past with laughter and sticks in their hands, chasing imaginary goats. Ola smiled faintly but said nothing. There was something about early mornings in Oru, something calm and honest, the kind of honesty you don't find in places where people wore perfume and lied for a living. But today, the peace felt different. Uneasy. When she got to the stream, she knelt on the smooth rock as she always did, letting her fingers stir the cool water. She took her time not because she was lazy, but because these were the only moments in her day that felt entirely her own. Suddenly, a footstep crunched behind her. She turned quickly. A man, tall, slim, and unfamiliar, stood at the edge of the stream, staring down at her with a look that seemed both unsure and soft. His clothes were simple, a faded t-shirt and brown trousers. Dust clung to his slippers. But his eyes, they held depth. "Let me help you," he said, voice calm, like someone who didn't rush words. Ola eyed him. "Help me with what?" He smiled gently. "Your bucket." She straightened. "I've been fetching water since I was a child. I can carry my own bucket." The man raised his hands in mock surrender. "Fair enough." As she began to fill her bucket, she noticed he remained still, not moving, just watching the flowing water. She glanced at him sideways. "You're not from around here?" He nodded. "I came 2 days ago. I live behind Mama Nkechi's compound." Ola tilted her head. "Your name?" "Obina." "Just that? No surname? No stories?" "Well, Obina," she said, lifting her filled bucket onto her head, "this stream doesn't wash away secrets. Be careful what you bring with you." He chuckled, but there was a flicker of something unreadable in his expression. Something hidden. Later that afternoon, as Ola helped her mother roast corn beside the road, the women began to talk. They always talked. Women in Oru knew everything about everyone, even what hadn't happened yet. "That new boy, the one that walks like a city man," Mama Nwaka said, turning her fried plantain over the fire, "he's too quiet. I don't trust men who keep quiet. That's how ritualists behave." "He helped me lift water yesterday," Mama Obi added. "His hands are rough like someone who has worked, but his fingernails are clean like someone who hasn't." Ola said nothing. Her eyes stayed on the smoke rising from the corn. But inside her, curiosity simmered. Why did he come here? Why now? And why did his silence feel louder than words? Days passed, and then weeks. Obina became a part of the village fabric quietly. He fixed radios, rewired faulty bulbs in the church, and repaired Mr. Odegu's broken bicycle chain. He greeted elders with respect, avoided the rowdy village boys, and always kept to himself. But every so often, he'd appear beside Ola at the stream, on her way from the market, after Sunday service, never forcefully, always respectfully. He told her once, while helping her carry potatoes, "People think poverty is what humbles a man. But sometimes, it's wealth that breaks him. You sound like someone who lost everything." He only smiled. Or maybe someone who gave everything away. They began spending more time together peeling cassava, selling fruits at the market, even just sitting under the mango tree near the church, watching children play. The village started to whisper louder. One evening, as the orange sky melted into purple, Ola walked through the village square with Obinna by her side. The smell of firewood and frying fish wafted through the air. Villagers sat in front of their homes, watching them pass. From behind them, the woman's voice rang out. She go cry small when hunger beat Fine girl like this, wasting her time on poor boy. Ola didn't flinch. But Obinna stopped walking. Ignore them, she whispered. He stared at her, expression unreadable. You're not ashamed of walking with me. She stopped too. Turned to face him. Why should I be ashamed of a man who makes me laugh? Who respects me? Who doesn't see me as a transaction? He was quiet. I'm not looking for a savior, she added. I'm looking for peace. That night, as he escorted her home under the moonlight, neither of them spoke. But their silence was warm. A silence full of trust, not absence. The kind of silence only true love can understand. It had rained all afternoon. The kind of slow, steady rain that soaked the earth and softened the air. Now the village was still damp, the ground muddy, and the trees glistening under the fading light of dusk. Under the old Udala tree behind the village church, Ola sat on the edge of a wooden bench, her legs swinging softly. Obinna appeared from the footpath, holding something in his closed hand. His shirt was wet at the shoulders, but his eyes, those calm, deep-set eyes, sparkled. Without saying a word, he walked up to her and knelt slowly. Obinna, Ola whispered, startled. He opened his hand. Inside was a small copper ring, delicately twisted, handmade, imperfect, and beautiful in its simplicity. I don't have a house, he said quietly. I don't have land. No job with a title. No big name. But I have hands that will work for you, a back that will carry our load, and a heart that's never lied to you. Ola stared at him, her throat tightening. If you say yes, Obinna continued, it will be the beginning of a hard life. Not a rich one. But it will be honest. And I love you every day I'm alive. Will you marry me? Tears welled up in Ola's eyes, and her voice cracked as she said the one word that changed everything. Yes. The wedding was small, no satin dresses, no white limousine, and no music from DJs with microphones. Instead, the local church choir sang in shaky harmonies, and the chairs were borrowed from the primary school. Ola wore a long lace gown that belonged to her cousin and shoes she had only ever worn once to a burial. Obinna wore his cleanest shirt, one that still had a tiny stain on it. No one came from Obinna's side. Not a brother, not a cousin. No one asked why. The priest's homily was short and kind. He spoke of love, patience, and the dignity of building a life from scratch. When they exchanged vows, Ola smiled through tears. The women whispered. A baby cried in the back row, and the heavens stayed silent. After the ceremony, they shared jollof rice cooked in Mama Ifinanyo's large metal pot. There was no meat, just fish and plenty of pepper. Neighbors brought soft drinks. Someone played a borrowed radio. And in the eyes of the villagers, it was clear what many thought. Is this what love looks like? Marrying a man without family. Even poor men they marry now. Ola heard every whisper. But her smile remained unshaken. She knew the truth of the man beside her. He may have had nothing, but he had never made her feel like nothing. Their home was a small, one-room apartment on the edge of the village. The ceiling leaked when it rained, and rats occasionally wrestled in the ceiling boards at night. Their mattress lay on the floor, and the small charcoal stove hissed each evening as Ola cooked. But those first few weeks of marriage were filled with laughter. They played local card games after dinner. He helped her wash clothes behind the house. On Sundays, they walked hand in hand to church, their fingers locked not just in affection but in silent defiance of public opinion. Obinna worked every day, fetching firewood, repairing radios, mending roofs, carrying cement for bricklayers. Ola continued to assist her mother in her roasted corn business. They didn't have much, but they had enough. And somehow, enough felt like plenty. But as the months rolled on, Ola noticed something shifting. Obinna had begun to change, not in how he treated her, but in small habits that whispered of secrets. Phone calls late at night, taken outside under the orange tree. Short, unannounced trips to the neighboring town. New words of cash casually slipped into her hands with little explanation. She asked him once, "Where did you get this money?" He smiled faintly. "A man paid me well for fixing his generator." Another time, "Why are you coming home late these days?" He kissed her forehead. "Work has been plenty lately. You know January is always like this." She wanted to believe him. She truly did. But something about the way his eyes no longer met hers when he spoke, something about the way his phone always stayed on silent, made her heart curl in confusion. Still, she said nothing. Love demands trust, and she gave it even when doubt begged for her attention. It was a Saturday, hot, dry, and loud with the chatter of neighbors. Ola stood outside the house pounding yam for lunch. Sweat trickled down her back as she hummed a gospel tune, the pestle rising and falling rhythmically. Then she heard it, the low growl of an engine. Unfamiliar. Powerful. Close. She turned. A shiny black SUV, the kind only seen in magazines or during political campaigns, was pulling into their small compound. Its tinted windows gleamed under the sun. The engine stopped. For a moment, the world held its breath. The door opened. A tall man, dressed in fine trousers and a neatly ironed suit, stepped out. His skin was lighter than Obinna's. His face was sculpted, confident, and expensive. He walked to the front of the house and knocked once hard. The door opened. Obinna stood in the doorway, frozen. His face drained of color. "David," he muttered. 2 years, the man said coldly. "We've been looking for you. And you're here, living in this dump." Ola turned to her husband slowly. "Obinna," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "what is he talking about?" Her husband didn't respond. His eyes darted between her and the man. "Should I tell her?" David asked, raising his voice. "Or will you?" And then, as silence roared and the yam pounded lay forgotten in the motor, David turned to Ola and said the words that ripped her world apart. "He is not who you think he is. Your husband is not just Obinna. He's Obinna Obiajulu Bachi, the youngest son of Chief Vincent Bachi, billionaire oil mogul. And he ran away from all of it." Ola couldn't move. Her ears rang, and the edges of her vision blurred. David's words had cut into her like a knife made of ice. Her husband, or her Obinna, was the son of one of the most powerful and wealthiest men in the country. She turned to look at him, her heart breaking with every step he didn't take toward her. His silence was louder than the truth. "Obinna, tell me he's lying," she choked out. He opened his mouth but only pain came out. "It's true," he finally whispered. "I'm not just Obinna." Ola's hands shook as the pestle slipped from her fingers. The yam in the motor was forgotten. The walls of their humble home seemed to close in around her. "You lied to me," she said, taking a step back. "I didn't lie," he said quickly, stepping forward. I didn't tell you everything. I was trying to leave that life behind. I wanted a life where I wasn't my father's shadow, where I wasn't being forced to marry a woman I didn't love just to seal a business deal." Ola's voice was hoarse. "But why didn't you tell me, at least after we married?" Obina's eyes glistened. Because I wanted you to love me. Not the son of a billionaire. Just me. You should have known, she said, her voice rising. You should have known that I already did. She turned and walked inside the house. And she didn't speak to him again that night. By morning, Ola had packed her few belongings into a bag. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She only stood in the center of the room they had built their memories in, staring at the walls they had painted together, the mattress where they had shared laughter, stories, and late-night dreams. Obina stood by the doorway, helpless. Ola, please, he begged. She looked at him, really looked, and whispered, I married a man with nothing, and I was proud. But now I see. I didn't even know the man I married. And with that, she walked out, leaving Obina alone in the room where love once lived. Ola returned to her mother's house with tears in her eyes. Few villagers mocked her as she passed. Obina returned to Lagos. The gates of the Bachi mansion opened slowly, as though unsure he was even worthy to pass through. The same family he had run away from, leaving everything behind. His brothers sat like silent judges. His father, now thinner, older, and seated in a wheelchair, stared at him with tired eyes. You look like your mother, the old man said. Especially when you're angry. Obina didn't respond. You've punished us enough, his father continued. Now come home. There's work to do. Your place is here. Obina shook his head. I didn't run because I hated this house. I ran because I couldn't breathe in it. His father gave a faint, weary smile. And now? I've seen the world without this name. And I've learned what really matters. She muttered. Then bring her home, the old man said quietly. We owe her more than we can ever repay. Back in Oru, Ola said little. Ate little. Barely smiled. The villagers watched her every step. Some whispered with pity. Others smirked with satisfaction. She thought she was smart, they said. Love is not enough. Even poor men can lie. But Ola ignored them all. She taught children at the village school during the day and helped her mother sell roasted corn in the evening. But at night, she sat in silence, staring at the copper ring she still wore. It wasn't about the wealth. It was about the trust that had crumbled like sand under her feet. 3 weeks passed. Then one afternoon, a black car stopped in front of Mama Ola's compound. A man in a navy suit stepped out, walked up to Ola quietly, and handed her a sealed white envelope. He said nothing else, bowed politely, and left. Ola opened the letter with trembling hands. The handwriting was familiar, neat, precise, and full of regret. Ola. I walked away from the world to find peace. And I found it in you. You never cared about what I had. You only cared about who I was. I failed you by hiding my truth. But I want to spend the rest of my life telling you nothing but truth, in every sunrise, in every breath, in every second. If you'll allow me, I want to come back not as the son of a billionaire, but as your husband. Forever yours. Obina. Ola folded the letter gently, placed it on her chest, and wept, not because she was sad, but because her heart still believed in him. The very next weekend, the people of Oru gathered at the village square, confused by the convoy of expensive cars slowly rolling into the village. There were at least 12 black jeeps, SUVs, and a Rolls-Royce with silver trim. From the Rolls-Royce, an elderly man in flowing white agbada stepped out. Chief Vincent Bachi. His sons followed behind him, dressed in matching traditional attire. He approached Mama Ola first. I am not here to buy your daughter's forgiveness, he said. I am here to beg for it. The same daughter you raised in struggle gave my son the love that all our riches could not. He turned to Ola, and his voice cracked slightly. I came to ask for what we once refused to give, our blessing. The crowd gasped. The air was thick with silence. Ola's eyes met Obina's from across the gathering. And in that moment, everything else faded. 2 months later, Lagos trembled with whispers as social media exploded. Who is this village girl marrying the heir to Bachi's holdings? She's the same one that married him when he had nothing. The wedding was held at the Bachi Grand Estate. There were no fewer than 2,000 guests, governors, celebrities, CEOs. But all eyes were on the bride in a breathtaking custom gown designed in Paris, her hair pinned with white pearls, her smile glowing like the morning sun. Obina wore a white tailored suit with golden embroidery, but he looked only at her. The hall was filled with cascading white flowers, a live orchestra, and chandeliers larger than most village houses. It was luxury, but it was love that made it shine. Later that night, in the garden behind the grand estate, away from the cameras and crowd, Ola sat beside Obina, staring ahead. She didn't speak. She simply took his hand. "I'm sorry," he whispered again. She turned to him. "We were rich when we had nothing. And we are still rich now, not because of what we own, but because of what we survived." He kissed her forehead. "Forever?" he asked. "Forever," she replied. And the moon, high above the Lagos skyline, bore witness to a love that began in a village and bloomed in gold.